Have you ever started a hobby or a project with extreme enthusiasm and bought all of the equipment, signed up for membership, bought a domain name, got your buddies in order, put this up on your Facebook profile, only for the enthusiasm to fizzle out over the next few weeks and months, and then have all of your equipment lie somewhere collecting dust? You're not alone. It certainly happened to me, and I know it happens to a lot of us. And I think this problem is fondly called starti-tis. Being a finisher is almost touted with such respect because most of us don't do it. In this video, I want to talk to you about why do we start new things, many new things, with such gusto, only to have them languish? Why is it so hard to be a finisher? Let's talk about what science has to say. Hello again and welcome to my channel. My name is Ria and I'm a self-admitted multi-passionate person with interests across personal growth, behavioral science, business strategy, and music. Thank you for being here and I hope you find this video useful. This idea of starting a project, investing time and resources in it, and then letting it fizzle out over time, even though you know if you would have stuck with it, you could have achieved a lot more. And so this to me sounds like actually something that gets in the way often of us fulfilling our potential. And that's not cool. So let's talk a little bit about why this happens, and we'll use behavioral science theories, etc. to piece this together. There are three things that go on together and are at play when we start something new. And that might explain why we usually don't stick with it. The first piece is novelty. Now there's a bunch of good research on this, but let me just read out something here for a second. When we see something new, we see it as a potential for rewarding us in some way. This motivates us to explore our environment for rewards. Novelty is associated with dopamine. The flip side of that, of course, and as you can probably predict, is that the brain learns that the stimulus, once familiar, has no reward associated with it, and so it loses its potential. Now, what this is basically saying is novelty motivates us, but the more familiar something gets, the less exciting, rewarding, and therefore motivating it gets. And you can take this back to evolutionary science. The moment something becomes familiar, it stops drawing our attention. The second, and this is super interesting, is we often overestimate our abilities when we're incompetent at something, especially when we're incompetent at something. And this is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I'm probably saying that wrong. Let me try that one more time.
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Says we overestimate our ability. Now it's statistically impossible, but most people believe that they are better than the average driver. Can't really be true. But it does indicate something about how we think. There is also a psychological theory about the 4 stages of competence. And the first stage is unconscious incompetence. So we actually don't know that we don't know. And you've heard this phrase, right? The less I know, or something like that.
The less I know, the more I think I know. And the more I know, the less I think I know, or something like that.
You know what I mean. The more competent we get, the more realistic we get about what we actually know. And so how this plays into starti-tis is that at the beginning of a new project, you are more likely to believe that you're definitely going to be successful. The third piece of this puzzle is why we actually don't stick to our project or don't stick to our initial enthusiastic goals. And I think this has something to do with a phenomena called the resistance. I think this was coined by Steven Pressfield and also referenced by Seth Godin in his book Linchpin. And the idea is that the resistance is that voice in our head that tells us it's never going to work, you suck at it, just stop, you're going to fail, everyone's going to make fun of you. And this effectively comes from a part of our brain, which is the amygdala, which is the fear center. It is responsible for our flight or fight response. And it's effectively telling us when something gets hard, it's telling us to quit now, because the cost might be too great. Now the resistance is like a war inside you every day. When I was doing my consulting case interviews at INSEAD, I actually came across this really cool graph, and this has stuck with me. It's basically this chart. This I think has been referenced in a lot of the Dunning-Kruger studies, that when you're starting a new task or a new skill or learning something from scratch, your confidence right at the beginning tends to be really high. And I think in some people refer to it as Mount Stupid. And that's important because it gets us started. The more time you spend, the more competent you start to get at that task, your optimism or confidence actually starts to plummet. And that's what's called the valley of despair. Now, that's the time most people quit. So you start with uninformed optimism, and you're going down towards the valley of despair, and that's informed pessimism, because it is hard. If you just keep practicing and keep going down the road, you actually start to get better. Now, this is called informed optimism. But it's different from that optimism in the beginning, which was, of course I can do this. It can't be that hard, everyone does it. And at that time, your competence actually starts to become unconscious and second nature. Now, when you start something, your goal is, of course, to get to that point, to get beyond the valley of despair, and to get to the point of success and fulfillment in that task. I don't think I've, by any stretch of imagination, managed starti-tis. I'm trying to be more cautious about what I start. As for basketball, cricket, piano, what's some other ones? Painting. I never finished those. And I apologize, sorry Dad, that I never did, and I wasted everyone's time and money. And so, my friends, with this, I want to leave you with one thought. Do uphold your commitment to yourself. Give yourself a little more time before you decide to commit to a new project or hobby. Have patience when you have started, and know that your confidence is going to dip. You are going to hit the valley of despair, and when you do, remember that the only way out of it is not backward, it's forward.